right, guys, today I'm going to be speaking to you on the subject focused on finishing. Focused on finishing. We've been in this series called Faithful and Focused. I spent 3 weeks talking about being faithful. Today I'm going to be talking about focus. By your own admission, how many of you struggle with focus? Okay, all right. The rest of you that didn't raise your hands, you weren't even paying attention. So you the real ones that struggle with focus. Struggle with focus. Focus is a powerful force. I would say one of the most powerful forces. We all know that there's sunlight when we walk into the sun, sunlight everywhere, but it's not going to start a fire somewhere or burn a hole in something. But if you put a magnifying glass and you catch multiple rays of the sun and you focus them, it has power to start a fire. That's exactly what a laser is. It has all of that light focus and it's powerful. Your focus is powerful. It is a powerful force. But when you're not focused, you don't accomplish much. You don't make much difference. You know, they say that in a little river, if a piece of river hits a rock consistently in the same place, just water can totally break a rock apart, and that's the power of focus. But many people are not focused, and that's why I'm devoting this entire message to your focus. And man, we live in an ADD, ADHD culture like never before. As a matter of fact, I know it's a real condition, but I think way more people claim it than actually have it. Oh, I got ADHD. No. You're just struggling with your focus. And we need to be people of focus. Here's another fact about your focus is that you will end up where you're focused. Okay? You're going to end up where you're focused. I'll give you an illustration. I was driving to our Baker campus, and you have to pass through the Governor's Mansion curve going up to Baker. And for some reason, I started thinking about Krispy Kreme donuts. And guys, Krispy Kreme donuts, they sell them in most racetracks and Exxons and stuff like that, but it's not the same thing. If you get one from the store like that, it's cold, it's like 3 days old, and it just tastes like any other donut. But there's something special about going to the store when the light is on, hot donuts. If you've ever had that experience, let me know. Okay, put your hands down. If you've never had the joy of getting a hot donut from Krispy Kreme, I want to know where you're at so I can pray for you. Oh, man. You got to have that experience once in your life. But I had this focus in my mind on Krispy Kreme donuts. I was driving, came around a corner, and for some reason, I was just thinking about how hot and how sugary and how soft they were. It was like manna from heaven. And before I knew it, I exited the interstate, and I did not intend to exit the interstate. I just did it. And then I show up in the parking lot of Krispy Kreme, and when I pulled up, I thought that the whole purpose of me going up to North Baton Rouge was to go to Krispy Kreme, and then I realized I was actually going to church, and I ended up here. Y'all know I got a couple dozen that day. But you're going to end up where you're focused. Here's another thing about your focus, is that whatever you focus on enlarges, and whatever you turn away from diminishes. When you focus like your fears, if all you do is focus on your fears, focus on dying, focus on not having enough, focused on all of it, that's going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. I had a guy tell me just this week that he had a fear of flying, phobia of flying. And his wife's been trying to get him to go on a trip with her, and he said he saw one of the Boeing planes, and the door ripped off of the plane. He's like, I'm not getting on one of those planes ever. And so I just reasoned with him a little bit. I said, you know, statistically, it's way more dangerous to be in a car than it is to be in an airplane. And I said, like, way more. And he's like, yeah, I know, but I ain't doing that. I ain't getting up in that plane. I said, well, you came here in a car. Yeah, but I'm not scared of a car. I'm scared of a plane. I said, well, if all you did all day was watch videos of people in cars getting in accidents, you wouldn't want to get in a car either. Whatever you're focused on becomes bigger, and whatever you turn away from diminishes. This is why it's so important to not focus on your fears, dwell on your fears, dwell on negative things. Think about, you know you have the authority over your thought life, right? Did you know that actually, that you're not a victim of your thought life, but you're actually the captain of your thought life? I'll say that again. You're not the victim of your thought life. You're the captain of your thought life, meaning you are in control. You don't have to dwell on things that sink you down. You can identify those things, cut them off, and be focused in the right direction. Here's the final thing I'll say, just building the groundwork for this focus talk, is that your focus, or the energy follows focus. Energy follows focus. I'm not talking about drinking a Celsius drink or a pre-workout supplement, but when you're not focused, you lack direction, you sit on your couch and you don't know what to do. You watch TV, scroll through your social media, because here's the point, you don't have something that you're focused on. And either that is because you haven't spent the time to think about what you should be focused on, or there are so many things that are surrounding you, so many responsibilities, so many things begging for your attention that you just are paralyzed. Has anybody ever experienced that, where you have so much that you just want to sit there? But the moment you identify where you're going to put your focus, all of a sudden energy comes, because energy follows focus. So if you don't like your power in life, your direction in life, your impact in life, it's probably because you're not focused. You're doing everything but not something. Okay? So let's go to the scriptures and let's see what Paul has to say about focus. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1. And when I say Paul, people don't know for sure if Paul wrote this, but I'm convinced that Paul wrote Hebrews. So it says, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down. In other words, stop running with those 10-pound, 20-pound weights on your ankles. Strip off every weight that slows us down. And there are people in this room right now, and this is why this message is so important, is you're trying to run with weights on. You're trying to run through life, but you got weights on. And Paul says, let's take off the weights that are slowing us down. Too many things. We got to get focused. We have weights that are slowing us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. It's not just weights, it's a sin problem that's tripping us up. And then he says, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus. So he gives us a solution. We're to focus on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. And now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Let's pray for a moment. Lord, I pray over the next few minutes that you help us, Lord, because that's really, I know what's in your heart, is to help each one of us to be focused on what really matters. I pray that every person under the sound of my voice that is distracted by the enemy, distracted by culture, distracted by this life, Lord, would put their eyes on what you desire us to focus on. In the name of Jesus, amen. How many of you were able to catch some of the Olympics? Some of it. Basketball. Anybody? You able to catch it? Judo. What'd you watch? Pickleball. Basketball. What's your favorite Olympic sport? Tell your neighbor what your favorite Olympic sport is. Badminton. Did anybody watch breakdancing? Man, she was good. But how about Team USA? Team USA brought home more medals this year. Those Olympic athletes are focused. What about Noah Lyles winning the 100 meter? Okay, if you missed the 100 meter, Noah Lyles, what an athlete, what an incredible athlete. The 100 meters is fast. I mean, you got to go like crazy. What's wild is Noah Lyles won that race by 1/5000th of a second. Fathom that, 1/5000th of a second. So to the human eye, this is not even discernible that he would win this race. But that dude was focused. He's been focused for years. And with all the craziness going on in the world, that dude's thinking about one thing, and it's not Krispy Kreme. He is not on his way to Krispy Kreme. He's focused in his diet. He's focused in his discipline. He is focused. And you know, those guys are so trained, but Paul, throughout his writings, compares Christians to athletes. And he did it in his epistle to the Corinthians. He did it in his epistle to Timothy. He did it here in Hebrews. Over and over again, he compares Christians to athletes because we are supposed to be that disciplined, that focused, that on mission. But you know how, like, we're way far away from those Olympic athletes, guys. We're like, they're at the top of their game and we're eating Krispy Kreme. That's just the facts. But God desires to see us as focused as these Olympic athletes. And so I'm going to give you 4 areas to help you with your focus. And this is going to come from Paul's writings. And we're going to go through this scripture. But the first thing that we have to focus on, and we're going to have to, it's going to take focus to do this, is we're going to focus on forgetting. It's going to take focus to forget. It takes intentional focus to recognize where the past is holding us back. It takes intentional focus to recognize that we have weights on us. They're memories, they're things that have happened to us, they're experiences, they're failures, they're moments of regret, they're things that are on us that we have to take off. One time I got pushed in a swimming pool. I'm a good swimmer, but I got pushed in a swimming pool and I had all my clothes on. Has that ever happened to you before? And you try to swim with all those clothes on? It's a heavy weight. But many of us try to live for the Lord, but if we don't properly cut ties with the past, and here's the thing, the past has no benefit other than a lesson. You've heard it before, you cannot drive your car by looking in the rearview mirror. The rearview mirror is only good for a quick check to see what's coming. Just quick check, but then you're right back in the windshield. And many of us live our life with weights on our ankles, and it's the past. What do these weights look like? Well, it looks like you are constantly looking at your childhood, reflecting. And I believe that true healing can happen from people's childhood. And I know it's touchy. You deal with people's childhood and their trauma. And I mean, it's real touchy. And this is why we have great people who counsel people and bring people through their past. But I also think that some people are overly obsessed with their past. And it's enlarging because they're focused on it. It's enlarging because they're dwelling on it. You ever seen someone with a flat tire before? It's really sad when it's on the interstate and they have it car jacked up and they're changing the tire. But I've had the experience of seeing somebody with 2 flat tires and they didn't want to change their tires either because they didn't have flat tires or they didn't feel like waiting on somebody to come, but they decided to go ahead and roll with those 2 flat tires. So they just, and then all of a sudden they went through that rubber, the rubber started flying everywhere, and then you see sparks starting to fly because we're never intended to go with flat tires. And that's what your past is. You have to change the tires and start brand new. This is what Christ represents for us, a new start. Behold, all things are passed away and all things have been made new. Thank God for new. And I'm telling you, your past, you can't bring your past identities, your past failures, all of your past. And here's one that really trips us up is unforgiveness, where we cannot forgive people. If you cannot forgive someone, they're a weight around you. They're not being punished by your unforgiveness. You're the only one being punished by your unforgiveness. You've got to take the weights off. You've got to shed the layers. This is what Paul says, and I want you to listen to his words. This is Philippians chapter 3, verse 13. No, dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it, but I focus on this one thing, forgetting. So he focuses on forgetting the past and look forward to what lies ahead. So the first thing that we have to do to focus right is to focus on forgetting. The second thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to focus on filtering the present. The present's awesome. If you're alive in the present, say hey. Hey. Hey, hey, hey. I'm alive right now. Right? Yes, 2 seconds ago is gone. 2 seconds from now is gone. All you got is right now. But you have to filter the present. Because if you're distracted in the present. And there's so many stimulations, so many things coming at us, but you have to be focused. And these Olympic athletes, they are so focused, most of them. Michael Phelps is one of the most decorated swimmers in Olympic history. And there's this picture that stands out. I think it's an iconic picture. This is the picture. You may recognize it. This is Phelps about to win another gold medal. And it's this guy from France, Chad Leclos, I think his name is, recognizes that Phelps is passing him up. And instead of focusing on his race, he's not focused on his race. He's focused on Phelps. You know who didn't win that race? Leclos. You know who won? Phelps. Are you with me? Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. That's pretty good right there. Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners. If all you're doing is looking at somebody else, and that's what many people do. All they do is spend their life trying to catch up with this person, try to be inspired by this person and track them down, be jealous of this person, and you're not running the race put in front of you. You're distracted. You're distracted. So we have to filter out. What are we filtering out? We're going to filter out distractions. And I'm going to challenge you, and I know it's impossible for every person in here to leave and put this into practice, but I pray you do, is to get focused like an Olympic athlete and start to block out the noise of the world. There's so much noise that is vying for your attention. And if you just look at every single loud noise and every bright color and everything, you're going to be so distracted, you're going to be useless. I had a friend tell me recently that his dad is retired. And he's like, every time I go over there, my dad's got the news on 99. Like 99 volume. You know, you got 1 through 99. It's on 99. Blah, 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 just is loud. And he said for about 6 hours a day, his dad's watching the news. And he'll get mad. He'll put it on mute and say, did you hear that? Did you see what just happened? Did you see what they said? He's just obsessed. That ain't focused. That's distracted. You got to eliminate distracted. What's distracting you right now? What's vying for your focus? Did you know entire companies are making money off of your attention? No, this is true. This is a fact. You ever wonder why you can scroll on social media and not have to pay a bill for it? Because somebody else is paying the bill. Advertisers are paying social media companies to addict you so they have your attention. So you have to know that things are vying for your attention. But really what it says that we have to filter out, he says, especially the sin that so easily besets us. Now let's talk about the real stuff. The sin that's tripping us up. Because it's impossible for you to run your Christian race if you can't let go or shake off the sin that so easily besets you. Like what? Well, it's hard to serve Jesus and be drunk all the time. It's hard to serve Jesus and have an addiction to drugs. It's hard to serve Jesus and have a problem with adultery and you trying to hide messages from your spouse and all this, and you can't. Especially the sin that so easily besets us. It's time, instead of being sugar-free, to be sin-free. Instead of a sugar-free diet, we need a sin-free diet. Sin-free, sin-free. Well, we're living holy, living clean. This is a way to stay focused because sin is distracting. Boy, I'm preaching good. Sin is distracting. Okay, so we're gonna focus on forgetting the past. We're gonna focus on filtering the present. Now let's talk about this third area. We're gonna focus on finishing our race. Our race. Not their race, our race. You know, in the Olympics, they have different races. I'm not talking about black, white, Asian. I'm talking about races, legitimate races. And these races are the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the They have one of them called speed walking. Can we be real? That was one of the weirdest ones. Shall I demonstrate? So that's not even close. Your feet can't leave the ground. You got to do like this. And these guys, they walk forever like that. Who would sign up? That's what I want to compete in. So I want to walk super fast like that. It's like, okay. And if you're a speed walker, no offense. I'm still being won over. I haven't been won over yet. So, but you got to focus on your race. Your race is not my race. Your race is your race. God has given you, and you have to know this, He uniquely fashioned you for the race that He put you in. You better believe it. There are assignments for you to walk in. There are responsibilities that He has for you. There are things that He desires for you. I'll never do it for you. You can only do it for yourself. And if you're not focused, you're not going to run your race. But how do we focus in our race? And this is it. It says, for the joy set before Him, He endured the cross, which means there's somewhere that you have to focus, and you have to focus on finishing. You have to focus on finishing. And I'm talking, some people have a hard time thinking about next week. I'm talking about focusing on the end of your life. Focus on decades from now when you're going to breathe your last breath. You got to be focused on what will you have accomplished when you're at your last breath. Will you have done the will of God? You need to focus that finish line, because you look at those guys like the gentleman we just watched. Noah Lyles. Sorry. You watch him. He was focused on that finish line. Your finish line is this. It is the perfected you. Jesus is working in you, in His perfect. You're not perfect now, but as you live your life, surrender to Him, you're becoming more and more like Christ. Get your eyes on that finish line of the future you. Hey, everybody that is going to be in heaven, when they're in heaven, they're going to be perfect. But we are being perfected in this life, and you're focusing on the future you and who you will be. You're focusing on the future reward that you will receive. All of our works will be tried. You're focusing on the future reward. You're focused on your future calling. 1 trillion years from now, the scriptures say that we will still be alive with Christ, ruling and reigning with Him. You got to get focused on that reality. Think about how much that matters more than these light and momentary afflictions that we have. Get focused on that finish line. This is why we don't have time for little drama, little sagas, little. Focus on the finish line. Focus on the finish line. The final thing that we get here is that, how do we do this? And it says that we do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus. Keeping our eyes on Jesus. So we're going to focus on forgetting. We're going to focus on filtering. We're focused on finishing. Finally, we're going to focus on the face of Jesus. The face of Jesus. I want to say something to you that I pray you never forget. And this is so crucial, and the truth of this is so important. Tell me that you're with me. Say, I'm with you, Pastor. I'm with you. Say, talk to me. Talk to me. All right, what I'm about to tell you matters. It matters so much for your life. Many people wonder why they're here. It's called a purpose issue. Why am I created? What am I here for? Actually, what is all of this for? What is this world? What are those galaxies for? What are those stars for? What is it all for? What's it for? Comes down to a gift. The Father is going to give all things to the Son. He did everything for his son Jesus. Everything that you can see, he created for him and by him. Jesus, being the amazing Jesus that he is going to give it all back to the Father. But your literal existence is for Jesus Christ. This is the Christology. This is a strong Christology that he is the center of it all. So, like the earth revolves around the sun, we all revolve around Jesus. One day, your final destination will be at his throne. And when you are in front of Jesus, the fullness of your purpose will be unveiled. You will see why you were made. And you were made for his glory. You were not made for popularity. You were not made for fame. You were not made for fortune. You were made for Jesus. That's why you were made. The faster you realize that in this life, you realize that he didn't make you for stuff. He made you for Jesus. Oh, it is good. It's more than good. It's everything. What I'm telling you is everything. You were made for Jesus. You were made for his glory. So the faster you can get focused on him, pleasing him, knowing him, following him, your purpose comes alive. But if Jesus is a sideline to your life, then you're living for something different. He's got to be everything to you. Do you remember when Peter got invited by Jesus to walk on the water? And he steps out and he begins to walk. As long as he was looking at the face of Jesus, he walked on water. But when he took his eyes off of the face of Jesus and began to look at the winds and the waves, distracted, he was not focused. He was not focused. He was not focused. He was not focused. He was not focused on Jesus. He began to sink, and so do we. If we get our eyes off of the face of Jesus, we begin to sink. But if we can put our eyes on his face, there's an old hymn that says, turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face, and the things of this world will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. I wonder if our lives are focused enough on him, knowing him. There should not be a day that goes on in your life where you don't say, hey, Jesus, I love you. I live for you. My life is for you. I give you myself. This is everything. This is everything. This is how we make it through tough things. We emulate Jesus. If he was able to make it, he said, foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. When you're walking through a tough time, if he did it, you can do it. If he went through Gethsemane and he wanted to do something different, but God said, go to the cross, and he did it, you can do it. If he laid down his life for other people instead of being focused on himself, you can do it. Look at him. Look at Jesus. Stare at his life. Man, I feel this in my heart, deep. Focus on Jesus. What are you focused on? What are you focused on? Are you focused on the elections coming up? Is that all you're thinking about? What's going to happen in November? What's going to happen to our country? What's going to happen? Hey, I just stepped on a bunch of toes in the room. Is all you focused on is what's coming down the news pipes and what's coming up? You need to get your eyes on Jesus. 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 Focus on Jesus. Block out the noise, the distracting noise of this world. Kings and kingdoms will rise and fall. Jesus is forever. Focus on his face. You can get mad at me if you want to. It's okay. You got to focus on Jesus. Because I love you. I love you so much. I love you. But you got to focus. You got to focus. Focus on forgetting. Focus on filtering. Focus on finishing. And focus on the face of Jesus. Amen.